Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. As always, thanks for being here. Thanks for joining for the webinar. As always, today with you, Max Kushniruk. I'm a legal assistant at FinTech Arbor Consulting Company. As always, please notify us in the chat. Type anything you want that you can see us and hear me personally clearly, so we can move forward. Okay. Okay, great. So, okay, great. Yes. So let's move forward to the webinar. So today we have decided to start our webinar and take into consideration and today's discussion a very interesting theme. And we're going today discuss the money server business or MSB license in Canada and its role in the global cryptocurrency market. So we're also going to discuss analyze the difference and similarities between the MSB license in Canada and the VASP authorization in Europe, and as well as EU payment licenses, detailed review and practical application and advantages of obtaining the Canadian MSB license, and detailed plan outlining the process of obtaining the Canadian MSB license. So, as always, our webinar is expected to be no longer than an hour. And for the viewers who are already watching our webinar, not the first time, we also have the last 20-25 minutes Q&A section. So if you have any kind of questions regarding the theme of today's discussion, feel free to chat and send your question via YouTube chat, and we are going to discuss it directly with today's speaker. And as always, I would like to introduce my colleague, senior lawyer and legal project manager with a huge blockchain experience across various jurisdictions, Bogdan Popovchenko. Bogdan, hi. Best word to
Hi,
you.
Max. Thank you for your intro. I would only like to add not only colleague, but rather friend, considering how many webinars we had together. So welcome, everyone. Nice to see you all. Nice to see you on our first webinar in 2024. So today we're going to discuss Canadian money service business registration as an alternative to EU VASP authorizations for crypto companies. So let's start. Just a moment. Yep, so just a second, dear colleagues. Yep, Max, can you see the presentation? Yep, so
Yes, everything looks fine.
perfect. So let's start our webinar with a traditional discussion of the size of the Canada cryptocurrency market. So according to a Statista latest report, the cryptocurrency market in Canada is projected to raise almost $1.7 billion in revenue in 2024, with a forecasted annual growth rate of 8.37%. The revenue in the Canadian cryptocurrency market is projected to raise up to around $2.4 billion in 2028. So just to imagine how huge this amount is, it would generally mean that the revenue in Canadian cryptocurrency market would be more than 12 times larger of the revenue in the crypto market in Turkey, 1.7 billion were against 139 million. Considering the fact that Canada is more than twice smaller in population. So the number of active users in Canada cryptocurrency market is projected to be almost 13 million users by 2028, which would actually mean that every third Canadian citizen would be actively involved in Canadian cryptocurrency market. So what exactly is MSB in Canada? So MSB is an abbreviation that stands for Money Service Business, Financial Transactions and Report Analysis Center of Canada, or FINTRAC, is a governmental agency that oversees compliance of MSBs with the legal requirement and is responsible for their registration. So a company is required to register as an MSB if it provides one or all of the following activities: the provision of payment services, foreign exchange dealing, dealing in virtual currencies, crowdfunding platform, money transferring, and issuing or redeeming money orders. So the Canada role in the global cryptocurrency and payment industry, especially when we speak about licensing, is dramatical. So according to a FinTrack annual report, by March 2022, there were more than 2,460 registered MSBs with FinTrack in Canada. So it's if to compare with EU, let's say, so all the 27 EU member states have issued approximately 2,400 authorizations for crypto companies or so-called WASPs up to date. So practically, it means that the Canada has registered more money service businesses in 2022 than European Union issued WASP licenses up to date, and the WASP authorizations are extremely popular. So as you can see in our list, Canada, number one, 2,465 plus. Poland goes second with almost twice lower amounts, 1,250 WASP authorizations. By the way, numbers 1,218 and number 1,083. Hello, we with Max were very glad to assist you in obtaining these authorizations. Lithuania, number 3 with 50 plus authorizations, Italy 124 plus, France with 95, Spain 82, and Estonia 80. So let's discuss what is Canadian Money Service Business Registration in more details. So as we upper discussed with you, it is an registration that allows you to conduct up to 6 types of fintech activities, including provision of payment services or so-called PSPs, foreign exchange dealing, let's say exchanging US dollar for Canadian dollar or Canadian dollar for Australian, dealing in virtual currencies, one of the most important here, crowdfunding platform, money transferring, issuing and redeeming money orders. The procedure of money service business registration in Canada, both in terms of company formation and obtaining the money service business registration, can be done 100% remote. It is a single registration for all activities. So it means that you do not need to register each of the activities that I mentioned. You can register them all the activities that are included in your business model in one single stage. The registration is issued for an unlimited period of time with only one requirement that reports must be filled every 2 years to FinTrack. So why we do not say that is a license that is issued for 2 years with the necessity to renew it every 2 years? Because of one simple reason. When you want to renew the license in other jurisdiction, let's say, for example, United Arab Emirates, you need to pay a huge state fee for the license renewal and a huge fee for legal services to renew the company and the license. When we speak about Canada, you're only required to file a comprehensive report to the FinTrack, including description of your activities during this period, how you followed compliance and anti-money laundering obligations. And after filling this report, you will be able to continue your operations without any complexities. So the use case scenarios for money service business include provision of MSB services in Canada, including direct marketing. The direct marketing means that you can advertise your services on MiCA, on YouTube, Google, Instagram, everything you want. Sending commercial proposals with call to action, sending emails to your potential customers, and making even cold phone calls. No limitations, MSB services in entire Canada. The second is provision of money service business services to foreign clients without direct marketing. So what does it mean without direct marketing? I will provide you with the simple example. There is no law in Canada that prohibits money service businesses to provide their services to the foreign customers. The same, in most of other jurisdictions, there are no laws that prohibit their citizens to use the services of foreign payment platform, as MSB is. Currently, I'm located in Poland. There are no laws in Poland that prohibit me of using services of Canadian MSB. The same in Canada. There are no laws that prohibit them to provide the services to me. The only thing I would like to point your attention is that you need to avoid the direct marketing. Do not send any commercial proposals with call to actions and etc. And by following these requirements, you will be able to operate both in Canada and globally based on one single registration. So as we discussed, FinTrack or Financial Transaction and Report Analysis Center of Canada is a regulator authority. The timeline of receipt of the license from A to Z in terms of company formation, preparation of all necessary documents, submitting pre-application, application, and securing the license is from 3 to 5 months. And it mostly totally depends on the workload on FinTrack in each particular month. So currently, you can commonly meet in internet that some lawyers say that money service business registration can be obtained within 2 weeks or 1 month, but unfortunately, in 99% of cases, it's impossible. So from 3 to 5 months is a normal, comfortable period of time when you can obtain this registration. So let's move forward and discuss the substance requirement. So currently, in Canada, there are no local substance requirements both in terms of the company formation and obtaining the money service business registration. The only requirement is to have compliance officer residing in any jurisdiction and a Canadian address for correspondence. So this address would be used by FinTrack or CRA, Canada Revenue Agency, to send in user correspondence. So let's discuss in general how cryptocurrencies are regulated in Canada. The cryptocurrency operations in Canada are mainly regulated by the Proceeds of Crime, Money Laundering, and Terrorist Financing Act, so-called PCML-TFA, guidelines from FinTrack and the CRA, that is Canada Revenue Agency. So depending on the guarantees that each particular virtual asset provides to its users, may also apply securities regulation, and you know that something people usually try to avoid. So in accordance with the Currency Act of Canada and guidelines from CRA, a cryptocurrency is defined as a type of virtual asset that is secured using cryptography. It typically uses a system known as a blockchain to record and maintain a history of transactions. And if to summarize, cryptocurrency is not a means of exchange, is not a means of money, sorry, but a means of exchange. The payment for goods and services with crypto is taxable as a barter deal in Canada, except the cases when you purchase the crypto for fiat. In this case, it would be taxable as a purchase, as a traditional purchase agreement. This is all due to the fact that in Article 8 of the Canadian Currency Act, only banknotes and coins issued by the Bank of Canada are given the status of legal tether. So if to summarize it all, the definition of cryptocurrency in Canada is extremely alike to what we have now in Euro based on IMLD5, the fifth anti-money laundering directive, and FATF guidelines that define the cryptocurrency as a digital representation of value that can be stored by electronic means, especially by distributed ledger technology or the blockchain. So it doesn't have the status of legal tether, and approximately we have the same situation in Canada. So let's discuss in a little bit more details what is about security regulation. So currently in Canada, provincial regulators in each of 10 Canadian provinces and Canadian Security Administrator are authorized to define whether security regulation applies to digital assets. So currently, these authorities do not have any specific guidelines as has Security Exchange Commission in US. However, they have their own national test to define what type of digital assets can be classified as securities and what not. So this test was established by Supreme Court in 1978 in the so-called Pacific Coast Coin Exchange test. It is almost the same as what we have in US with their Howey test established by Supreme Court, and this test includes the 4 key criteria that can increase livelihood of classification as security or can decrease. The number one, an investment of funds. So let's say we invest funds in some cryptocurrency with an expectation of further profit generation in a common enterprise. So we with you make a joint pool of funds. We pool our funds together to obtain profits in future with an expectation of profit versus US classification by Tess Howey with a reasonable expectation of profit. And the last one is obtaining a substantial profit, a substantial portion of profits through the effort of others against obtaining profits based on the efforts of third parties by a US Howey test. So as you can see, it is very alike to the Howey test in United States and the classification of Security Exchange Commission. The Pacific Coin test is applied on a case-by-case basis. And any business in Canada that is trading securities, that is consulting clients on securities, must be registered with securities regulator in each specific province. So in general, classification of securities, that is something people usually try to avoid unless it is not significant for their business model. So let's discuss the services that Canadian MSBs can provide in details. According to the Section 5 of Proceed of Crime and Terrorist Financing Act, guidelines from FINTRAC, MSBs can provide the following services. Foreign exchange dealing. It's a very simple service that includes exchange of one fiat currency to another fiat currency. Let's say British pound per US dollar per Canadian dollar per shekel, and shekel per Swiss franc, without any limitation, exchange of funds in absolutely any currency. Dealing in virtual currency, it's very interesting. It includes 3 types of activities. The first one, exchange between fiat currencies and virtual currencies between themselves, and facilitating transactions in crypto of your users. So in this case, you're able to exchange, let's say, USDT for Bitcoin, Bitcoin for US dollar for Ethereum. The payment service provider, it's a person or entity that acts as an intermediary and facilitate transactions of the clients. So let's say you facilitate transaction of buyers and sellers or people who provide services. For example, a platform that allows businesses to accept electronic payments. The fourth, one of the most important, as I told, the crowdfunding platform. Crowdfunding platform services that provide and maintain crowdfunding services for their personal usage or to raise funds in fiat or virtual currencies for other projects. Money transferring. It's remitting or transferring funds by any means. So in general, the FINTRAC classifies money transferring in a very similar way to a payment service provider. And the last but not least is using or redeeming money orders. So using or redeeming money orders, travelers' checks, other similar negotiable instruments. So this is also extremely important service. For example, it can provide you with the possibility for paying people in funds for their traveler's check. So traveler's check is a paper with which you can pay in a very old-fashioned style, like 200 years ago. You have the check, you make your signature, and in this case, MSB can make payment in your regard. So let's discuss the procedure of obtaining the money service business registration. So obtaining MSB registration in Canada is relatively uncomplicated compared to similar authorizations in EU and involves the following 7 steps. The first step is submission of documents to us, including 3 options for company name if you want a company with the name. Joint call with the lawyer to discuss all the strategy, all steps, from company formation to successful obtaining of money service business registration. The second stage includes accelerated 24 hours company name verification and reservation of these names in the British Columbia Corporate Registry. We at FinTech Harbor absolutely always use the accelerated 24 hours name request, name verification check, because if not to use this way, the BC registries can provide answers up to 3 weeks, and it can significantly wider the timeline, and it's something that we want to avoid. The third stage includes submission of application for entry to the BC Corporate Registry and obtaining of certificate of incorporation and notice of articles. During this period of time from the first stage to third, we will also prepare in parallel all the rest of documents. So on the third stage, your documents, the company will be officially registered, and we move forward to the MSB registration. On the first stage, we will prepare for you a 4 questionnaires for MSB registration, and we will also help you to finalize your business model. We here at FinTech Harbor commonly deal with startups who may not know all the specifics, and sometimes we can provide our clients with assistance on finalization of their business model. The fifth stage includes submission of initial application to FinTrack, obtaining completion of the first stage of compliance, and submission the pre-registration form. After it, will be completed the second stage of compliance in FinTrack. We will answer all additional questions that FinTrack may ask. We will provide all additional documents and clarifications. In some rare cases, there may be a video interview of FinTrack with Director or Compliance Officer of our clients, and we provide 100% support in preparation for such interviews if necessary. And the stage number 7 includes obtaining a response from FinTrack and successful registration of the company as a money service business in Canada. So for those who do not have from 3 to 5 months to obtain an MSB registration, purchasing a ready-made company with an MSB registration can be an optimal solution, which will take only 1 single week. Sometimes we at FinTech Harbor have companies that are available for instant purchase. And in this case, the procedure will be finalized extremely fast. The first stage includes a joint call with the lawyer, as with the traditional registration of an MSB. We will explain our client everything from A to Z, the procedure, what stages are included, what documents are required, and etc. After it, we will prepare and provide for signature for the client the letter of intent. Is legally non-binding agreement that shows your intention to buy the company with an MSB registration. After it, we will issue an invoice on 10% deposit of the company price, which will be kept in trust until all the deal is finalized. And we will provide the client with the full set of corporate documents. The stage 3 is actually optional. It's totally up to decision of client. We can provide the client with 14 days period for any sort of due diligences that the client wants to make as a purchaser. So in this case, we always, for 100%, can guarantee that the companies that we provide for sale, ready-made MSBs that we provide for sales, they do not have tax, they do not have debts, tax, or any other liabilities, and that they have not conducted any commercial activities before. The first stage includes signing of a share purchase agreement, paying the remaining price, and from this moment, the purchaser officially becomes, this company officially becomes a property of purchaser. So at this stage, the MSB is already yours, and the fifth stage includes formalities like making changes to the current documents, compliance documents of the company. It's 100-page documents to be fully complied with Canadian legislation, and we will prepare the rest documents for the FINTRAC and submit it. So let's discuss the company registration procedure in Canada in a little more detail. So currently in Canada, there are two levels where the companies can be incorporated. The first one is federal, Canada-wide, and the second provincial at the level of each of 10 provinces. The most common province for company formation in Canada that we recommend for 90% of our clients who are not citizens or residents of Canada is company formation in British Columbia. This is because of the fact that in British Columbia, there are no requirements to have the local director in this province. There are only requirements to have one single director, one shareholder, and in case of necessity, it could be a one single person. There are no residency requirements for director and shareholder, and all directors may be located outside of Canada if required. So right after company formation, according to Section 9 of British Columbia Company Act, the BC registries must issue a certificate of incorporation, demonstrated that the company is incorporated, and to publish in Gazette the notice of the incorporation. So after this stage, the company will be fully incorporated. The documents required for company formation in Canada are extremely simple and common for most of jurisdictions. Is a copy of notarized passport, criminal record check, source of funds, CV in case if you want to appoint the director or shareholder as a compliance officer in future, and certified proof of address for the last 3 months. The next specific I want to talk about is the selection of name in the British Columbia. So currently there are two ways what name to select. You can have or company with the name or company without name. So if you do not want to have a company with the name and you're considering the possibility of its subsequent sale, in general, we can skip this step and register to you a numbered company. In this case, the company name would be, let's say, 123.45 and so on, limited. And the BC registries will define the number of this company. In case if you want the company with the name, you need to include to the name the three elements. First is distinctive, a word that is unique, descriptive, a word that describes the types and the nature of your business, and the third is a corporate designation, for example, limited. So let's compare with FinTech Harbor Consulting Ltd. So the distinctive element of FinTech Harbor is FinTech Harbor. The descriptive element and the nature of our business is consulting, and the corporate designation is Ltd. The procedure of subsequent obtaining of Canadian MSB registration doesn't require you much extra than a company formation. On this stage, we will only need one additional person. It's a compliance officer. According to a FINTRA guidelines, the compliance officer at the beginning of business can be the same person as a director or shareholder. So in this case, we can even make a structure, a single person structure, where this person would be the director, shareholder, and compliance officer. So as you can see, according to FINTRA clarification, it's absolutely possible. In future, we usually recommend to add a separate compliance officer if your MSB shows high revenue and so on. But as you can see, FINTRA provides us with the possibility to handle this role personally. The formal requirements for compliance officer provided by FINTRAC include to have the necessary authority, resources to implement the compliance program and make necessary changes, to have knowledge about company functions and its structure, and understand the money laundering and terrorism financing risks, as well as current trends. So in general, I recommend for compliance officers to have some experience in compliance fields or payment industry, and experience in virtual assets. In virtual assets, it's not mandatory. So the list of documents for obtaining Canadian MSB registration will include additionally only MSB compliance program. It is 100 plus document, which includes everything to be fully compliant with Canadian legislation, which we prepare personally. Company website if available at the moment of MSB registration. Business plan, optional but very useful. Biography of compliance officer including name, ID, and CV, in case if it would be another person than the shareholder. And the most important here is the cash flow model. So a cash flow model is a document with a detailed description of business mechanics and business operations. Business mechanics should include a description of funds on the entire road when they receive MSB till the final designation, absence, presence of any intermediaries, and in case if you have intermediaries, let's say banks, EMIs, and so on, you just need to describe the role. If you currently do not have any partners, it is better just to indicate what sort of partners you plan to have in future. So for convenience of our clients, I usually recommend to describe a simple route with an example of 1,000 Canadian dollars from the moment it arrives to MSB's account till the final destination. So let's discuss the compression finally of Canada and of Canadian MSB registration and the Polish WASP authorization. So these two licenses are very similar in terms of crypto, but dramatically change in different in other services. The timeline of receipt in Canada is from 3 to 5 months, which is twice longer than in terms of Polish, 1 up to 2 months. Both do not have local substance requirements in terms of having office, local employees, it's unnecessary, but they require a compliance officer residing in any jurisdiction. Both do not have minimum capital requirements. The services that they can provide, the MSB can provide the foreign exchange dealing, money transferring, dealing in virtual currencies, crowdfunding, payment service provider, issuing or redeeming money orders, and the WASP can provide crypto to fiat exchange, fiat to crypto, brokerage and exchange, and custody services. So let's discuss the difference of their services in a little bit more detail. So if to compare their services, Canadian Money Service Business Registration, especially its service that is called dealing in virtual currencies, cover 3 of 4 services that the Polish WASP can provide. Not only Polish, but WASP from any EU jurisdiction, since they work on the same, based on the same IML-D5 directive. Canadian MSB can provide crypto to fiat exchange, exchange of US dollar for USDT or Bitcoin, crypto to crypto exchange, exchange of USDT to Bitcoin, brokerage in exchange, assisting in transaction between users. The only service that Canadian MSB cannot provide that WASP can is the custody services. So if to compare them both, I would say that Canadian MSB is a little bit worse in terms of crypto services, but extremely better considering the possibility of operating as a payment service provider, as a crowdfunding platform, as providing the services of foreign exchange dealing is extremely wider type of transactional authorization. So it is always important to remember that when WASP is exclusively crypto authorization, MSB as a combination of crypto, payment, and crowdfunding licenses in the single registration. So the main reason why MSBs are becoming more and more popular are the changes that are expected in the European Union in the nearest time. So as you may all know, the market into crypto asset regulation, or so-called MiCA or MiCA, entered in force in June 2023. The MiCA regulation takes effect from the 30th December 2024, and with the rules on asset reference and e-money tokens starting on June the 30th. In general, it means that the regulatory regime that is responsible for issuing WASP authorizations in EU will have dramatical changes within the nearest 8 months and 25 days. While in terms with Canadian MSB, there are not expected any significant changes. So the Annex 4 of MiCA establishes minimum capital requirements for crypto service providers, dividing their activities in 3 classes. The first class, crypto asset service provider, that is authorized for conducting client transactions, something that MSB, by the way, can, provision of crypto assets, facilitating orders for others, something that MSB can, client-focused crypto asset transfers, something MSB can, overseeing clients' crypto orders, crypto asset consulting, and crypto asset portfolio management. So the minimum capital requirements for this class of authorization in EU would start from 50,000 euros. The second class is traditional WASP services, crypto-to-crypto exchange, brokerage and exchange, and custody services. So as you can see, currently in Poland, there are no minimum capital requirements to this sort of activities. But with MiCA, the requirements will start from 125,000 euros. And the class 3, the crypto asset service provider authorized to provide all the aforementioned services and the trading platform like Binance. With all these changes, the Canadian Money Service Business Registration currently looks even better. So the timeline of receipt, the MiCA authorization or the Money Service Business Registration would be approximately similar. Currently, we are not sure whether it would be possible to obtain the MiCA authorization so fast within 2 up to 4 months. This assumption is based on the approximate timeline of obtaining these authorizations in Lithuania and Estonia. So the MiCA will require you to have physical office, and at least one of the directors shall be resident in the EU. And as you can remember, Canadian MSB has no local substance requirements. They only require you to have compliance officer in any jurisdiction. No or zero minimum capital requirements versus from 50 for order management, 125,000 euros for most crypto companies, so-called WASPs, and 150,000 for operating as the trading platform. So considering all changes in the European Union legislation, something that we can definitely say now that the Canadian Money Service Business Registration can be significantly better for startups, for those who intend to start providing crypto services right now, for those who are not ready to be fully compliant with MiCA minimum capital requirements and so on, and especially if you want to provide some additional services as a provision, as a payment services, money transferring, foreign exchange, and crowdfunding. So let's summarize and discuss finally the use cases of Canadian money service business registration. So the first one is, of course, provision of MSB services in Canada without any limitations. Provision of services in EU upon direct request, but without marketing. The same is possible in general globally. There are no restrictions that do not allow you on board foreign clients in MSB if they request your services personally. From perspective of most of jurisdictions globally, and especially Canada. And MSB services in the jurisdictions without national license authorization. So currently, there are some jurisdictions that do not require you to have global payment licenses, and MSB is not only crypto, but a payment license. So in those jurisdictions, you will be able to operate free. So thank you very much for listening. Dear Max, I transfer the word to you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Bogdan. Once again, and as usual, it was very informative presentation. I hope that we could disclose more information about type of activities which you can perform, the details, right, and the requirements of the procedure of applying and obtaining the MSB license. And nevertheless, important thing regarding the MiCA or MiCA comparison, which MiCA is going to upcoming changes in the 2024. So it's very important to know some kind of alternatives as we having with our clients for the past like half an a year, which they can use besides applying for the MiCA directly. So, and dear viewers, I see in the chat we had just a lot of activities and a lot of questions. So we, as usual, prepare all questions besides the chat, which you could left at the time when you registered at this webinar. So we're going to make step by step and try to all answer to all of them. In case if some of your questions will be left without replies, don't worry, we'll be able to get back to you offline via email or messengers whenever it's a little more comfortable for you, or even to set up a call and discuss everything face to face. Okay, Bogdan. So let's move forward for the Q&A section. And the first one question which we had, it's what are the documents we should prepare for the MSB license?
Sure, Max, perfect question. So in general, nothing complicated. You just need a copy of notarized passport. Passport must contain front and back images, copy of proof of address, source of income, and CV. If you want to be appointed as a compliance officer, if we speak about company information, if you want in future to obtain in additional to companies the money service business registration, business plan, if you have the global MSB compliance program, we totally prepare it on our site, the company's website if you have, and the cash flow model. So in general, these are all the documents that you need to successfully obtain the money service business registration in Canada. I hope I answered your question.
I hope so too. Okay, great. So we can move forward. In terms of the requirements, again, can we just specify and summarize what kind of requirements FinTrack has for the applicant in order to get the MSB license?
Yep, sure. So your question is in two layers, sir. So the first layer is requirements for company formation. The company formation for company information in Canada, in British Columbia, you're required to have one director, one shareholder, and for MSB, additionally from FinTrack, you will need a compliance officer. Additionally, you need to have Canadian address for correspondence. It's very important thing because many consultants provide information to clients that they may need a local office and so on. But in general, you need to have just an address for correspondence and cash flow model, global MSB compliance program, as I told, we prepare it on our site and the company website if available. So if you have it all, we will be easily able to register an MSB for you.
Sounds great. And also, as you mentioned, we can make it in terms of the individuals like one person structure, right? If he has all necessary requirements and experience in terms of the compliance and ML, right?
Sure, Max. In general, I recommend in future, we want to provide for all our clients whose MSB are going to show the high revenue, we can provide you in future additionally services of external compliance officer because it's usually, difficult to handle the compliance issues from the beginning business. And if you want, in future, we will be able to provide you with services of compliance officer if needed. But from the beginning, according to FINTRA guidelines, we can make a single entity structure because it's absolutely allowed.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, in terms of the questions from the chat, client asks that he's interested to get the whole precise information about the license and the cost.
So as usual, Max, I will start about what is included in our services, and I would kindly ask you to provide a little bit more information about the cost.
Yeah.
So the entire package of our services on obtaining the MSB registration includes the preparation of all necessary documents for company information in British Columbia, including accelerated 24 hours name reservation, preparation of article incorporation, post-incorporation documents needed for company to be duly incorporated, and the corporate minute book. As a result of our services, you will obtain the certificate of incorporation, notice of articles, central securities register, and the corporate minute book. The timeline for it is approximately 7 business days. It depends on how quickly the clients can gather in 7 company information. We will provide you with annual address for mailing service for mailing. This service include not only address for correspondence with FinTrack or CRA, it also includes scanning and sending all the correspondence to you from Canada. It includes up to 7 shipments per month. If you want to obtain some additional correspondence, we can additionally discuss it, but in general, very few our clients obtain more than 10 official letters per month. The
Mm-hmm.
third stage includes preparation and submission of MSB application to FinTrack. It includes everything from the stage of helping you prepare and finalize the business model, prepare all the necessary compliance document, and the global MSB compliance program, it's 100 plus page document. Preparation of MSB pre-registration application and successful obtaining of MSB registration. So the first stage with the preliminary application takes from 2 up to 4 weeks, depending on the FinTrack workload, and successful obtaining of the MSB registration can take from 2 up to 4 months, is absolutely also depending on the FinTrack workload. So as we upper set, approximately it can take from 3 up to 5 months. I hope I answered my part of the question.
Yeah, yeah. So literally, we also had one more question in terms of the timeline. What will be the response from the FinTrack in order to get the approval for the application? So general process once again takes from 3 to 5 months. Usually, and sometimes it can be faster, or it can be, for example, in the agreed timeline which we already announced. And also, we had a question in terms of what kind of payment stages we are working with in order to assist with obtaining the MSB licenses. So I would like to inform you that usually we work with a full prepayment, which allows us to start immediately in a parallel several processes. For example, first incorporation of the company in Canada, and in the parallel, we can already start the preparation of the application to get the money service business license. But however, we also ready to face and provide some individual conditions based on which we can get comfortable cooperation, usually for our clients. Okay, so in terms of the next question, registration MSB without local offices from European Union or USA-based licensed legal entities. Is it possible? And if yes, how does it work?
So thank you very much. It's a perfect question that allows me to extend a little bit our presentation. So in general, MSBs can be registered both as for Canadian company in British Columbia and for the companies from other jurisdictions. If we registered a companies for other jurisdictions, it would be called not MSB, but FMSB, so Foreign Money Service Business. And it would be subject to a little bit different requirements in terms of registration of this license and requirements to reports and other operations. So I generally recommend our clients to make separate legal entities in Canada because when you have your own structure in, let's say, UK or US, you already face with some legal requirements. You already may have the EMEI, PI, or money transmitter license. And by separating these two licenses in different jurisdictions helps to keep your structure decentralized. In case of some problems in the main jurisdictions, your MSB would be protected. That will allow you to have the business continuity in case of any issues. But the same, if you have such request, we can simply we can simply obtain for you an FMSB license for any foreign company. We will just request you all the corporate documents you have for that jurisdiction and can assist you with this process easily. I hope
Okay.
I answered your question.
Yeah. Okay. And also, just in terms of the different operating from the EU, etc., we have like two questions. So client asks how to use MSB license for crypto in Canada if you already have a license in a EU country. I think we can answer to this question also including upcoming MiCA regulations in terms of the changing the location of your business and the jurisdiction, or maybe have a both MiCA and MSB. What's your opinion, Bogdan?
Yep. So it's a great question. Another great question. Thank you. So in general, is highly advisable to separate licenses if you have different areas. If you, let's say, operate EU, the MiCA license would be perfect. But if you want to feel safer about your WASP operations in EU, you can make a separate license in Canada for crypto operations, but you do not need to forget that Canadian MSB is extremely wider than the current WASP or even MiCA authorization since it allows you providing services from different areas. You will be able to operate as a PSP. It's very similar to payment institution to what we have in EU. You will be able to provide foreign exchange services, which is not allowed by WASP or current IMLD5. So I would say that the first purpose is to expand your operations, not only in terms of geography, but in terms of services. And the second, of course, it's always safer to have an additional license. And the third, last but not least, the Canada is the ninth world economy with the huge population and markets that we discussed at the beginning. So if you intend to cover Canada with expected more than every third Canadian citizen using crypto industry in 2028, so it's also a perfect opportunity. Thank you.
Okay, sounds great. And also, I would like to add that because we have again the question in terms of the covering area of the MSB license, right? And the one of our viewers just asking, is it legally to target, for example, other markets on behalf of the MSB license in Canada, for example, like in Europe on like Spain or maybe United Arab Emirates. So just as far as based on my experience and dealing with the different cases, as far as I know, the main obstacle in terms of the advertising, like worldwide, including on behalf of the MSB license in Canada. The main obstacle it's the compliance with the advertiser provider, right? Like a Google Ads and Meta, etc. They do require you to provide necessary documents, license, or permissions, which allows you to provide such services in these jurisdictions. However, There are another instruments, marketing instruments you can use like SEO, indirect advertisement, etc. And nevertheless, you need to understand that if the client finds you by yourself, right? Internet is a huge network, right? You can, if you want to find, if you will find exactly what you need. If you have a necessary payment and banking solutions, which allows you to accept the funds and start cooperation on the financial level with a client from this area, there is no restrictions inside of the MSB that you cannot work exactly from some kind of jurisdictions, except the prohibited jurisdictions which are on a blacklist.
Yeah, Max, absolutely agree with you. You're absolutely correct. So in general, it's absolutely unprohibited to provide the services if the client finds information about you personally. Let's say you can have can visit some conference and the client finds general information from you. In this case, in most of jurisdictions globally, it would not be classified as an active marketing. But that's an easy rule to follow to be able operating both Canada-wide and globally.
Mhm. That's right. Okay, agreed. So we can move forward. Uh, also, another question from one of our viewers on the stage of the registration to this webinar: Can the Canadian MSB operate with users in the US?
Perfect question. Uh, Max, I like we have multiple great questions today, like not about procedure and timeline, but yeah, I like such questions. So, in general, there are any laws in US that prohibit United States users to use the services of any foreign company, including money service business. The same in Canada. There are no rules on provision of that do not allow MSB to provide services to US citizens. But in US, the regulation of services as MSB are extremely more complicated than what we have in Canada. So you need totally to avoid any direct marketing because in US, when we're in Canada now, MSBs are regulated mostly on the federal level. In US, they're regulated as far as I remember, in mostly all the states except just few exemptions. Few very small states do not have the MSB and MTL regulation. So to obtain
Mhm.
to operate as an MSB, same as MSB in Canada, in US, you need firstly to register it as an MSB, but US on the federal level, and then to obtain the money transmitter license on the level of each state when you want to operate. The requirements to money transmitter license in US are extremely higher to what we have in Canada. Let's say the California state is one of the richest and hugest in terms of population, requires you to have from 200 to 250,000 US dollars up to half million US dollars as a minimum authorized capital that you need to keep on your bank account during the entire period you own this license. So the general answer would be, if few US clients request your services without any direct marketing from you, then in general, subject to anti-avoidance rules, yes. But in terms of active marketing, of course, it is better to analyze all the potential subsequences and the possibility of implication of local US regulation, both from perspective of federal regulation and from perspective of each specific state where you intend to provide the services. I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, so as far as I understand, it's the same like with the LATAM countries, right? It will be the same
Uh,
situation in terms
with
of the marketing.
with Latin countries, the principle in general, yes, but the Latin countries do not have such straight regulation of payment services. So in general, yes, but some Latin American countries may not have so well developed the payment legislation, and in this case, for some cases, of course, you can absolutely on board Latin American clients to your MSB if they request your services. And by the way, we have multiple clients who currently operating in Latin America, and they obtain money service business licenses because they're highly appreciated globally to find local partners, local banks in Latin America with whom they want to work as their partners.
Yeah, sounds like a plan also to work globe-wide. Sure. And again, we also have one more question in terms of the expanding your business and how its connection with the European VASP right now. So from the chat, how to use MSB license for crypto in Canada if you already have a license in EU country?
Well, if you currently have an EU license, of course, it's initially the possibility to expand your services to provide not only crypto, but also payment services. The requirements for obtaining payment institution authorizations in EU or EMEA license are extremely higher to what we have in Canada. So to obtain an EMEI license, according to Article 19 of Directive Payment Service to Directive, you're required to have at least 350,000 euros in terms of minimum authorized capital. In plus, you need to have at least 5 local employees. So if you do not intend to make a direct advertisement in EU, but want also to provide the payment services or crowdfunding services, you can use Canadian MSB. The second scenario is, of course, to protect, because if you currently have the WASP authorization and you're not sure whether the MiCA requirements are good for you, to allow you have business continuity right now, you can obtain the money service business registration and be on the safe side if for some reasons it is difficult for you to compliant with MiCA. I hope I answered your question.
Sounds great. So let me check from the chat. One moment. So in terms of the MSB, we also had a question. On behalf of the MSB, can the company perform crowdfunding activities?
Yeah, Max, of course it can. It's directly allowed by the FinTrack and the IML regulation in Canada. So in general, operating as a crowdfunding platform is one of the use cases for the MSB.
Okay, and also again regarding the activities, we have like a block of the activities questions about the crypto and fiat custody. Is it possible with MSB? Just I can answer partly for the main question that based on the MSB activities as it was performed and explained by Bogdan during the webinar at the presentation, you can provide the wallet services and custody services in terms of storage the crypto and virtual assets. But in terms of the fiat MSB license, again, another part of the activities is exactly displaying the payment service provider activities. So literally, you cannot perform directly the fiat custody. You cannot issuing the virtual bank IBAN, and also you cannot issue the different cards. So you can make it through having a different partners. For example, in terms of the storaging the fiat, right? You can use different services and partners in terms of the BaaS, right? Bank as a service, which allows you to issue virtual accounts. And on behalf of this partner, which providing the bank as a service conditions, you can allow your clients to storage the fiat there. In terms of the issuing the cards, you also need to have a partner, and also you need to have the official partnership with such famous card issuing emittent like MasterCard or Visa, based on which you can issue in such cards and allow your customers use it. Maybe Bogdan, you can just continue my answer if something you would like to add.
Yeah, Max, absolutely agree. In terms of issuing cards, maybe it would be even easier for MSB to find a partner who already established the partnership with MasterCard or Visa, who already has the so-called principal membership in Visa or MasterCard, sometimes it may be easier. And since most of countries perfectly know what is Canadian MSB, they can be also easily used for establishing partnerships, since banks, EMIs, credit institutions, financial institutions, and so on, they highly appreciate when you have your personal license and establish a partnership with them to limit their liabilities. Let's say most of your services you provide personally, and for those services that you need or you do not have authorization, you use them as a partners.
Okay, sounds fair for me. All right, so we're going to go to the last questions because we already over our usual limit 1 hour. But however, does MSB allow to the client the option of providing the financial services mentioned on the MSB application, or should I need to get additional license?
It's a great question. So in general, MSB allow you conducting one of 6 activities that are allowed by that are indicated in the MSB application, such as foreign exchange dealing, one currency to another, money transferring, remitting or transferring funds, dealing in virtual currencies, crypto exchange, fiat to crypto exchange, and brokerage and exchange, crowdfunding platform, payment service provider, and issuing or redeeming money orders. So if your business model includes one of these activities, then of course you will be able to provide it without any complexities. If you want to provide something extra that is not included in MSB registration, we here at FinTech Harbor specialize not only in payment and crypto licenses, we can easily assist you in obtaining investment license according to MiFID II directive in EU. We can assist you in obtaining multiple Forex authorizations in EU, outside EU, in offshore jurisdictions, United Arab Emirates, so anything you need. So we would be glad to invite you for our first free consultation with Max to discuss your business model in a little bit more detail.
Sounds great. And also, we have a question from one of our favorite clients.
Yeah.
In terms of reporting rules for PSPs in Canada in connection with the introduction of quarterly reporting in EU countries.
Yeah,
Very interesting, questions. Yeah.
Yeah, first of all, Miss Alona, very nice, Miss Elena, very nice that you joined us. We appreciate it a lot. So, regarding your question, if we're speaking about the EU Directive 2022/2084, it generally set requirements to the payment service providers that are located initially in European Union and is used specifically to cross-border payments. So Article 243B of this directive requires not only the local EU payment service providers, but also foreign third countries payment service providers to provide such reports in general. So considering the global nature of MSB operations, if you intend to provide the PSP, let's say I want to make a disclaimer, PSP, not only like virtual currency services, we're currently speaking about the PSP. So in general, yes, this requirement will apply to you. And it is better to review your current compliance program, compliance strategy to allow you be compliant both with Canadian and EU legislation. I hope I answer your question, and after the call, we would be glad to answer it to you in more details. Thank you.
Yeah, sounds great. Okay, and just let's take several last more questions. Interesting. One moment. A local securities commission. We have a question from the chat from the Yuri. Local security commission in Canada require registration in security commission licensing for providing WASP wallet services. So, is it possible, or what exactly is the procedure of in this case?
Yes, sir. So in general, currently there are no expected any changes in the current legislation of Canada, you need to register in the Canadian Security Exchange Commission, both on the federal and provincial level, if the virtual assets that you intend to provide can be classified as security. So right after our webinar, we will, of course, share our presentation in LinkedIn and other channels, and you can consider whether the securities regulation in Canada can apply to you based on Pacific Coin test, and there are four main requirements that we described, and to consider it in your compliance strategy. So if yes, so in general, you will be required. In other cases, it needs to be considered on a case-by-case basis. I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, sounds great. And if it speaks in terms of the questions, again, we have like some clarification in terms of the targeting, marketing, right, and direct marketing between Canadian MSB and EU VASP authorizations. I would like to emphasize once again that directly you can try to directly marketing these countries, but literally the advertising providers will not allow you to make it, right? So they will require you to provide some kind of permission and licenses. It's not going to be the case only with the MSB license, but also it goes for any kind of different licenses, including the WASP license, which is crypto authorization in Poland, if you would like to target the Canada, right? So if you're interested as a MSB company in Canada to target directly EU countries, right, and provide such services directly to the EU clients, so in this case, you need to get the local WASP authorization, or maybe in the future, MiCA, MiCA license, based on their current regulation. As we have our own webinar in terms of the MiCA or MiCA regulation, right? So each country can have like additional requirements based on the one template of the MiCA requirements. So we cannot predict what kind of cost, what kind of timeline it can be, right? Because you need to check it on the practice. So literally in terms of the marketing, from the MSB, you can literally advertise it worldwide and globally, right? But directly you can make it within the Canada and its provinces and in the jurisdictions where such activities is not licensed and are not required to be licensed, if such is. So I hope you answered to those questions and we could make any clarifications. If you have some additional questions, feel free to ask us, to contact us, and we will be able to set up a call and directly discuss it step by step. Okay, just thanks for the whole questions. It was interesting questions, which allows us to build our conversation like theme by theme by theme. So for the time being, we are going to end the webinar. I really thanks for everyone for joining, for putting these questions, staying with us. And in general, once again, if some of the questions weren't answered, we're going to get back to you as soon as possible offline and answer to you directly. And as always, we are going to plan our next webinars in upcoming of the months. We also do have different plans to take part in a different local events. So maybe we can meet there with you. So please stay in touch with us. Follow our website, follow our social medias, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Telegram group. So we always will be in touch with you. You will always know about our new services, new regulations, and new opportunities to improve and optimize or even start your business with FinTech Harbor Consulting. So again, everyone, have a nice morning, have a nice day, or have a nice evening, and wish you a great day. We'll be in touch. Thank you, Bogdan.
Dear colleagues, dear Max, thank you all for joining us. Was extremely glad to meet with you on our first webinar this year. And remember, see you at the same time, at the same place.
The same place. Yeah, bye.